everyone, Perri and Adam here, yet again with another TIFF 2018 review for you. This one is for a movie I was really looking forward to, and I think Adam was as well. Yes. As a book reader. We're talking right now about the Sisters Brothers. So, Adam, you want to give us you're like the Sisters Brothers expert to me.
Yes.
So you want to give us the rundown?
Well, it's based on a novel written by an author named Patrick Dewitt, which I read years ago and absolutely adored. And it's a Western, technically. It's directed by Jacques Audiard. It's his first English language film. He's a French filmmaker. He directed A Prophet and Rust and Bone, Dheepan, I think. And it stars Joaquin Phoenix and John C. Reilly as Eli and Charlie Sisters, which is where the Sisters Brothers comes from. It is intentionally silly and ridiculous because the book is, as is the tone of the film as well. But it's also really sad and melancholic and sweet and weird and strange. The film opens, the Sisters Brothers are hitmen, and they get a new job. They are to go and kill a prospector who is apparently stolen from their boss named the Commodore. This prospector is played by Riz Ahmed, who you know from Nightcrawler. And the Commodore has sent an advance man to go and capture the prospector and hold him until the Sisters Brothers. I did it first. I was
going to say it wrong.
Until the Sisters Brothers get there to do the dirty work. The advance man is played by Jake Gyllenhaal, and
of Nightcrawler.
Yes, and you get a bunch of really great scenes between Jake Gyllenhaal and Riz Ahmed as they kind of strike up a friendship and bond before the Sisters Brothers get there, and it is a Nightcrawler reunion. These four characters are so wonderfully drawn in this film and so beautifully acted. It's pretty insane. Joaquin Phoenix plays one of the Sisters Brothers. I can't remember if he's Charlie or Eli. I think he's Charlie.
He's Eli.
He's Eli?
Joaquin Phoenix is Eli.
Don't check
right?
that. We'll go with that. So Joaquin Phoenix's character is kind of petulant, very violent. He drinks.
I think you're right.
He could shoot and kill people at any time. John C. Reilly is playing a bit of a sad sack. He's the one who kind of has to take care of his younger brother and kind of watch after him and pick up after his messes. Riz Ahmed's prospector is very excited about, it's set in the 1800s, it's set during the gold rush, and excited about prospecting and this new formula that he has for prospecting. And then Jake Gyllenhaal's character is very interesting. He plays this man who fancies himself very eloquent.
I remember his name, John Morris.
Yes, John Morris. He puts on this accent of kind of nobility, and it's an air of pretension. He's pretending. He's pretending that he's better than he actually is. But he finds him. He writes these eloquent notes to the Sisters Brothers to tell them, where they are and where they're going. And a very funny running gag in the film is that Joaquin Phoenix's character keeps getting annoyed at the large words that John Morris keeps using in his notes.
So I would actually pluck Jake Gyllenhaal's character out of the
I love it.
out of the equation.
I love it.
I think he is an excellent actor for obvious reasons. There was something about it, I think it might have been the accent, where he was the only one where I just kept looking at him as Jake Gyllenhaal dressed up in Western gear doing this accent. But I did really like, I liked what was going on between his character and Riz Ahmed. There was an interesting bond that was created because really, obviously you have the Sisters Brothers, and a lot of this movie was about, or at least to me, was about just the connection with the people and seeing those relationships evolve as you make your way through the American West. So seeing how the two of them kind of grew close together while the Sisters Brothers never really did. They're brothers, and it's basically who you're stuck with and who you're obligated to because you're related by blood. But every time John C. Reilly tries to get close to Joaquin Phoenix just, basically gives him a big fat middle finger all over again, time and time again. But I think what worked best in the Sisters Brothers for me, and I think it's what you're going to hear a lot about from anybody who reviews this movie, is probably John C. Reilly.
Yeah.
John C. Reilly is exceptional. I need to go through his IMDb before I say this, but part of me wants to call this his best performance I've ever seen. There's something about his work in this where I think just his casting in this particular role was so perfect because I think he's able to capture bumbling, but capable at the same time, and I think that's what this character needed. But also, you know, he was heavily involved with the creation of this movie from the very beginning, and I was aware of that when I went into the movie, and I could see that on screen. He got it. There's something about this character and this story that he clearly got very strongly and cared deeply about, and I think in this case it really comes through super strongly. But I think the Sisters brothers work so well, and I did like Riz Ahmed's take on Warm too. I think he had a really interesting demeanor and kind of like a swagger to him that I didn't really quite expect, but I was loving the brothers so much that sometimes I had a difficult time being ripped away from them and put back into the other duo scenario. But then once I was with them long enough, I would get into them again, but I would always be happy to go back to Eli and Charlie.
Yeah, Reilly's performance, I mean, it's a great reminder that he is one of our most reliable dramatic performers. I mean, people forget that like he was in 3 Best Picture nominees in one year with The Hours, Chicago, and Gangs of New York. He was in The Aviator after that. He was kind of the guy you would go to for the solid dramatic supporting performance. Then, of course, he met Adam McKay and Step Brothers and Talladega Nights and stuff. But this is a really great return to that dramatic acting. It's a really sad, heartfelt performance. And this is a film, if you're really into plot and story, you may be frustrated by this film because it's not necessarily about that. It's really more about the characters and the journey. It's ultimately a melancholic Western. It's about kind of hopes and dreams, but also how lethal it is. I mean, the Sisters brothers are out here killing people for a living for what? And that's kind of what they come about to as they go along. It is kind of you see the internal struggle externalized in terms of like this is literally going to kill them, and what is the reason for them doing something like this as an occupation. The film is super eloquent. It never really hits that on the head. No character ever says this is what the movie's about. It's just very, very sweet and weird and strange.
A lot of what you just articulated comes through most, I think, from Riz Ahmed and John C. Reilly's performance too, where they never actually say anything except, I guess now I'm afraid to use the character names because I'm afraid I'm going to switch them, but I think John C. Reilly does express that in a way to Joaquin Phoenix a couple of times, and it just warms his outlook on life and what he's trying to achieve, where it isn't necessarily about the money. I think that really spoke to me too, and I appreciated that. Ultimately, I came down to a B+ with this one. You know, it's funny what you said before about, you know, if you like plot-heavy things, and I do. I like a very specific journey, but I think when you have that kind of, I wouldn't necessarily call this a slice of life film, but a film where you kind of just exist in a world with particular characters and they don't necessarily have this end game that they're getting to. Sometimes that can frustrate me. It didn't here, and I think it is primarily because I was so drawn to John C. Reilly, and I really believed in what he was trying to get for himself in life, and I appreciated that.
Yeah, it's a character piece. It's very much a character-driven story, but it's shot gorgeously. It's just kind of living with these characters for the runtime. I gave it a B+. I really, really like this film. And if you like the film, or if you're curious to read the book before the film, know that they're very, very similar in tone. So as someone who loved the book, I didn't know how they were going to adapt it, because it had kind of this Coen brothers kind of dry wit to it. And the trailers kind of lean a little bit on the comedy, and it is funny. It's got a caustic wit to it, but it's not a comedy necessarily.
It's funny. It's also got one particularly horrific moment that you will know it when you see it, but I couldn't shake it for a very long time. Yeah. Probably still can't shake it right now, but you're going to have to figure it out when you see the Sisters Brothers. Thank you guys so much for watching this review. As always, don't forget to like and share it. Check out Collider.com for even more TIFF coverage. See you soon.